In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace the transmission dipstick tube in this Chevy Silverado. Let's get into it. We're going to disconnect the battery. You can disconnect the negative terminal using a 10mm wrench. If you need to, you can take this plate out of here, but it's not necessary. You can work around it. Loosen that up. And slide that off and out of the way. Pull the dipstick for the transmission off. You want to unlock it. Then just grab it and pull it up. We're going to disconnect the connector for the O2 sensor. Just slide this lock up. That will pull out, and then pull up on the tab. Slide it out. This is the one on the driver's side. It's the inboard side of the frame. And disconnect the one that's attached to the transmission, or the bracket near the transmission. Just pull the lock out. Disconnect the connector, and then we need to take the connector off. There, we can use a trim tool or a screwdriver. And just slide it off. There we go. On the passenger side, you're going to have the connectors on the outside of the frame. Just disconnect that lock. And slide the connector off. And this last one. And I'll slide this connector off. Use a trim tool. You can pop the connector off or just slide it just like that. You might have a little wire retainer right here. Just take those off. On the passenger side, the front O2 sensor, we need to remove that so that we can access the nuts. So use a 7/8 wrench or an O2 sensor socket. There we go. And pull that out. Now I'm going to use a 15mm socket. We'll take the nuts off. They go on the flange right there. There's 3 of them on each side. Those out. Take those out. And the last one. Right here, you're going to need to disconnect in front of the flex pipe, this connection right here. This one's extremely rusty, so you normally would use a 13mm socket and take the bolt out and it should go up. This one, I'm just going to have to cut it off. Now it's separated right there. Slide this off. Separated. We're going to take these nuts out. That's out of the cross member that holds the transmission support. Use a 15mm socket. Take those out. Now underneath the transmission, we're going to use a transmission jack and just support the transmission. You can see that the transmission is going up a little bit where the mount is, so that the weight is off of that mount. Now we're going to take that bracket down. We have to take these 2 bolts out on each side, the nuts and bolts, using a 21 millimeter wrench on the back side and a 21 millimeter socket. Take the nuts off first. Slide the bolts out. Just going to leave this 1 bolt in until I get the other ones out on the other side. Just temporarily, I'm going to use a pull jack under the exhaust just to move it out of the way so I can access that bolt. Those nuts out and the bolts. And then just grab the cross member. We'll slide this bolt out. And slide this one out. And it slides right down. Now I'm just going to lower that pull jack. And grab the exhaust. Just slide it back. Slide it down. And it comes right out. Take a 13 millimeter socket. Take this nut off right here. And I'm just going to take a pry bar, just get underneath there. We just want to push it up. If you need to, you can use a hammer. I am going to use a drain bucket underneath in case any transmission fluid comes out. And just slide that up. It came out the bottom. No fluid came out, so that's good. Now we're going to take this shield off, take these 2 bolts out, use a 10 millimeter socket. Now we're going to take the transmission cooler lines off. You want to pop these covers off. Just pull these back. Just using a pry bar. Pop that cover off as well. Now you can access the clips. Now I'm just going to use a pick and slide the clip off. There is special tools you can use to get these off, but it's just as good to use a pick. Pop this off. That's the clip that you're pulling out. You get under the clip right here, pull it out, and you can just rock it off. You want to do that on both sides. Now grab the lines, just wiggle those out. You're going to want a drain bucket underneath. You're going to lose a little bit of fluid. Slide those out. Right here, there's a clip for the transmission cooler lines. We're going to pop these lines out of the clip so we can move them out of the way a little bit. If you need to, you can use some pliers. Just rotate the clips. Slide that out of the way. There we go. Pop those out. Get those out of the way a little bit. Just grab the dipstick tube, slide it down, and rotate it a little bit. So we want to get that bracket out a little bit. There we go. Just get that bracket past the lines, then you twist, and it'll slide down just like that. Now we're going to install the dipstick tube. Go behind the transmission cooler lines. It's just going to go up there. And slide it in place. Slide it down and over that stud. The bracket slides over the stud right there. Now put the nut on. Get that started. And tighten that down. Now we're going to get these transmission lines lined up. We need to put these little hooks in where the fittings are, or the retainers. Lock those in like that. Do the same on the bottom one. That's good. Make sure these are lined up correctly. Get those kind of lined up with the bracket down below. And lock those down. Put the lock retainer on, and same with the lower one. Push that in. Those are locked in. And put the cover on. That's good. And get the bracket lined up. Lock those in place. Good. And line this plate up. Get these bolts started. And tighten these down. Just snug them down. And you want to take the catalytic converters and line those up. Slide that in place. We have a new converter, so it looks a little different. But the procedure is the same. Line the bracket up top. That bracket lined up. And get the nuts started. On this side, you want to put a new seal right here. And slide this up. Let's hook these together. And put the nuts on. Slide this in place. And then we'll tighten this down using a 13mm socket. Just get that snug first. Once everything's in place, we'll tighten it down more. Then we're going to tighten up the nuts. Start on the driver's side, tighten this flange down first, because this is the solid flange. those are all tight. Now we're gonna tighten this in order, just go around, snug them all up evenly. And those are all tight. Now we'll tighten up the clamp. Use a 14mm socket. Make sure that's tight. Now just adjust this so that it fits on there right. And tighten it down. Good. I'm going to take the transmission mount, line this up, get those started. Tighten these down. Tight. Now take the cross member, line this up. And I'll take 2 of the bolts. Get that one started there, and the other one over here. And I can at least let go of it, and take the other bolts. And get all the nuts started. And tighten these down. Now I'm going to lower the transmission onto the support. Now I take the 2 transmission mount nuts, put these back, get those started, and tighten them down. Those are snug. Now I take the connector for the O2 sensor, line that up, connect that, and lock it down. Then you want to slide that connector onto the retainer. It's a little bit higher. Lock that in place, and that should look like that. Then you would do the same with the other ones. And put the dipstick back in for the transmission. Lock it down. And connect the cable for the negative battery terminal. Get that on, and we'll tighten that down. Snug that down. Just give it a wiggle, make sure it's tight. After you're done, you want to check the transmission fluid, have the vehicle running, get it up to operating temperature, pull the dipstick out, then wipe it off, and reinsert it. Pull it out again, and you want it in between the hash marks, in between those two dots. So that's where you want the fluid level. If you need to add fluid, you're going to use a funnel and add the fluid, the correct transmission fluid right there. And lock it down.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.